Let's just head on over to the main card. Ivan Menjivar versus Mike Easton. This should be a war, eh?
Yeah, this should be maybe fight of the night here. I mean, two guys that match up with each other relatively well. I for one always thought that Mike Easton's he's a very talented fighter, but maybe a little bit overrated. I think he is improving, and he might get to the point where everybody thinks he's at, but I just think the public thinks a little bit too highly of him here. And this is a big test for him. I think Menjivar is going to give him all he can handle. And I'm actually going to pick Menjivar in the slight upset. This is basically a pick-em fight,
sure,
as it should be. I mean, I think it could go either way. They match up so well together, but I think that Ivan overall, he just poses a little bit more problems for Mike Easton. On the ground, again, obviously these guys are both keen with BJJ, both have decent wrestling. And on the feet, though, Easton is going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, even though they're both about the same height. So he is going to have the longer reach on the feet, but I think Ivan's still a little bit more dangerous on the feet, too. So I do favor Ivan's experience and his overall game. I think he's just a little bit better in most areas. So I think that's going to get him by. And another close decision. It's another hard fight to bet, though, because with the judging these days, as I mentioned before and on previous shows, especially in this weight class, they're going to be competitive fights, so you never know which way they're going to score it. So hard fight to bet, but I am going to favor Ivan a little bit here.
Okay, good stuff, man. And we'll keep moving up the board here. We got Cody McKenzie versus Chad Mendes. You have Chad as probably the biggest favorite on the board for the entire fight card at minus 550. Talk about it.
Well, I just think, obviously, Jose Aldo is the man right now at featherweight. And
sure.
Beyond that, I think Mendes is probably the number 2 featherweight in the world. I would have liked to see the fight last a little bit longer against Aldo in that title shot, but, you know, things happen in the sport. He got caught early and the fight ended. It probably would have happened later anyway, so that's how good Jose Aldo is. But beyond that, I think Mendes is a step above everybody else. And McKenzie's going to come into this fight dangerous. I mean, we all know about his submission game, his guillotine choke, or whatever he calls it, the McKenzie-tine. I'm not even exactly sure what he calls it, but it is dangerous, man. He snatches it up pretty quick. He's aggressive when it comes to, even on the feet. He's a little bit sloppy, but he has improved. I've noticed, in his recent fights, you can definitely see some improvements on his feet, but I just think it's a horrible matchup. If he doesn't get that submission, he's going to lose this fight. And that's the thing. The general public knows this as well. I mean, they know how good Mendes is. He's going to obviously be able to dictate where this fight goes, keep it standing. On the feet, he's going to be better. Even though McKenzie's going to be aggressive and a little bit wild, I think Mendes probably shouldn't get caught on the feet. And he's going to have the technical edge, obviously, there. And I think, actually, as the fight goes on, Mendes probably ends up submitting McKenzie. I think maybe in round 2, round 3, if McKenzie gets out of the first, we see him probably snatch onto his back and maybe choke him out as well, or a guillotine or something like that. So McKenzie's going to be dangerous with the guillotine, but other than that, it's a bad matchup. So that's why you have to open this number high. The public's not stupid. They've already bet the number up. I've actually bet it. I opened it at minus 450. And the line's up to 550 now, so, and 500 some places. So we're not going to let the public pile on Mendes
right
here, so we're going to have to keep it high.
We have Damian Maia versus Dong Hum Kim. The interesting line on this one, Maia at plus 115, minus 145 on Kim.
Yeah, and another pick-em type of fight. Looking at it on paper, you're going to have a lot of advantages, I think, for Kim in this particular matchup. Maia's dropping down to 170 for the first time. We've seen he had success at 185, so everybody's interested to see how he's going to look, how the weight cut's going to be for him, and how he's going to perform. Really, we know about his ground game. You don't want to tangle with Maia on the ground. But, Kim is an intelligent fighter. His fight IQ is one thing that I have been impressed about the most with him as well. He's an aggressive fighter. He's got better striking, I think, overall. His wrestling's decent. We've seen that in the past, too. So Kim's pretty well-rounded here. And along with a good fight IQ, it's going to be a difficult matchup for Damian Maia. But you can never count a guy with that ground game like Maia's out, man. During a scramble, anything can happen. I think Maia could catch his back and possibly sub him out. So it's another difficult fight to really go crazy and bet one way or the other. But I do think that Kim, if he avoids that submission, he's probably going to win the decision here. So I'm leaning again towards the favorite here, slight favorite in Kim, but it could go either way. And obviously Damian Maia is always going to be dangerous. And I kind of hope he does pull off the upset in a way, because if Maia does come in and dethrone Kim, which is basically climbing up the ranks, we should say, in this weight class at 172. So he's a few wins away from maybe a title shot, is Kim. I know it's kind of a cluster ball in the 170 weight class right now with GSP being out and a couple guys behind him, but Kim is just a step or two behind those guys, some of those guys in that cluster, of getting a title shot. So I think Maia steps in and gets the win here, then you got a new possible contender at 170, which we've seen in the past what he's capable of. I mean, Chael Sonnen fighting in the main event this weekend, Maia's got to win over him. Different weight class, different situation, different matchup, but he's capable of submitting anybody in the sport. So that's what makes this definitely an interesting fight. So I'm going to lean towards Kim, but kind of hope Maia pulls off the upset.
Okay, and the next fight up is Patrick Cote versus Kung Lee. And I've been asking a lot of the fighters that have been doing the show the last few weeks about this fight. A lot of guys are on Kung Lee in this one, which kind of surprised me. You think people are forgetting about Patrick Cote's MMA game since he's been in a limelight for a few years?
Man, Patrick Cote is one of those guys that's never really gotten a lot of respect, I think, in the MMA community. And it's a shame because he's very talented. I mean, the guy, obviously his weakness is the ground game, and against a decent wrestler like we've seen in the past with Tom Lawler, he gets controlled and he gets taken down and he gets in some spots there with, those type of fighters. But this isn't that type of fight. I mean, obviously, I think the public, what you're saying, they're favoring Kung Lee a little bit, and we're seeing the action actually come in on Kung Lee as well. My opener was minus 260 for Patrick Cote at BetDSI. Bookmaker put it up at minus 275. So it was ballpark 260, 275 around that range, and it's already dropped to 250. Some spots have it lower. So the public is betting Kung Lee a little bit. Now, striking credentials, if you look at it on paper, Kung Lee should blow out Patrick Cote. Say it like it is. He's a more accomplished striker, and this is going to be a striking match. But this is MMA. I think Patrick Cote, obviously, looking at the resumes, he's got the better experience in MMA, and his striking's good enough, I think, at this stage in their career to knock out Kung Lee or stop Kung Lee, I think, in round 2 or 3 as well. So Cote is going to be the more dangerous of the two fighters at this stage in their career. Let's not forget Kung Lee. I believe he's 40 years old now. He's in great shape, and a lot of these guys that we see that are 38, 39, 40 years old in the UFC still, most of these guys are phenomenal athletes because at that age, competing on that level, it's rare to see, really. So Kung Lee, even though he is getting up there, he's definitely in great shape, but it still bothers me. I think that he does tend to fade in rounds 2 and round 3, and he's not in the prime of his career. So this is a fight that Patrick Cote can definitely win. He's got to be cautious because Kung Lee's striking is so unorthodox and accurate as well. We got to say that he's definitely got to be cautious. But I think Patrick Cote will eventually pressure Kung Lee and end up getting the knockout finish. So Cote is probably the side here, even though the public is betting Kung Lee, and it's another spot that I kind of wanted the public to bet on Lee, honestly.
Let's move over to the co-main event of the night: Tito Ortiz versus Forrest Griffin.
Man, this fight. Really, almost, let's say it. Tito Ortiz, obviously, everybody knows he's a legend in the sport. Forrest Griffin, he's a legend as well. I know he hasn't been around the block as much as Tito Ortiz, but from The Ultimate Fighter, obviously the first season of The Ultimate Fighter with the fight with him and Stephan Bonner, which helped boost the UFC and the sport in general here. The guy's a legend. So you have two legends battling, but you know what? I'm not that excited for this fight. Out of respect to both of them, I'm glad to see him maybe get this fight for each other because it's a fight that favors Forrest. That's why you're seeing him at 3-1 favorite. But it's a fight that either one of them could really win. Realistically, I think Tito Ortiz, we're probably going to see this be his last fight, win or lose. You can never say never with these guys, but we're hearing that Ortiz is going to hang it up after this. So he's going to be motivated, and I think round 1 is going to be interesting in this fight. Round 2 and round 3, I would probably give the edge a little bit to Forrest. So that's why you're seeing him as a slight favorite here. Well, as a decent favorite here. I think he's got a little bit more left in the tank, and he should be able to finish Tito Ortiz. Or in round 2 and round 3, win convincingly enough to get the decision here. So, but it does worry me because, man, we've seen Forrest's last few fights, and they haven't been that impressive at all. I was really disappointed, him not showing up in Brazil. The way he performed, I know there was a lot of pressure. His wife was pregnant. There was a lot of, mental issues going on with him at that time. But that's exactly my concern too. As a 3-1 favorite, you have to pass. Even though I think Forrest, at this stage in their career, should win this fight again. We have some of those matchups I think on this card, and this is another one. So a fight you kind of stay away from. I expect Forrest to win this fight. He should win this fight, but just too many questions here. Definitely.
Would you agree this is a step down in competition though for Tito Ortiz? He fought Ryan Bader, who I believe is better than Forrest Griffin. Then he fought Rashad, and then the last fight.
Yeah, it is definitely, and you're seeing actually, the line kind of tighter against some of these other guys. He was a bigger favorite. Now he pulled off that, almost miracle upset against Ryan Bader. He caught Bader, and got that choke. It was great to see, him win a fight like that, but it was almost flukish. So yeah, this is what you just said. I agree with. I think it is a step down at this stage in Forrest Griffin's career. Again, where his mental the mental side of him, you just don't know where it is. I mean, if Forrest shows up with the guy that's held the light heavyweight crown, the guy that we've seen in some of those battles that we loved, Forrest Griffin, he's just not around. If that guy shows up, he might be able to make things interesting and make another run towards the title. I don't ever see Forrest being champion again, but I think he's got the skill set and he's got the ability to make a lot of fights difficult for the 205 division. But it just depends, man. We'll see. If he loses this fight, he's done. I mean, obviously, we can basically count him out. I don't think he's going to recover if he loses to Tito Ortiz, honestly. So we could see two guys retire.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's just my opinion. So don't, nobody quote me that I said Forrest Griffin's going to retire if he loses. But, I think that his MMA career is pretty much done.
I would agree with that, man. Yeah, totally. So let's move to the main event. Everyone's excited for this. So many UFC events anymore, but this is one everyone's talking about. Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva.
Man, this is a super fight that, like you said, everybody's anticipating. The biggest fight by far of the year. We've been waiting. It just seems like forever. I mean, I released the line on this fight last November. So it's been such a long time where we're finally going to get to see it happen. So I'm looking forward to it as well. Now, this fight is a little tricky because we've seen, what happened in the first fight. 4.5 rounds, Chael Sonnen obviously dominated the fight and had his way with Anderson Silva, which at that point, everybody was surprised. Nobody expected him to be as dominant, I guess, at that point against Anderson Silva. Now, I have to be honest here. In the first fight, I laid my cash down on Sonnen. I loved the odds. I knew his wrestling. He was capable of getting it to the floor. My biggest concern was obviously the submission because Chael Sonnen's prone, as we know, before even that last fight, he's prone to getting subbed as well. So that worried me a little bit, but the odds, man, you're getting plus 400 or higher on Chael Sonnen at that time. I thought it was definitely worth a bet. So obviously going into that fight, 4.5 rounds down, I was smiling, but I was thinking to myself, all right, don't get caught in nothing stupid, and bam, he gets caught in the triangle arm bar there. So I wasn't happy to say the least. And while I'm saying this, because at this time I actually think that Anderson Silva is going to end it quicker. I mean, I know that, like I said, I kind of favored Chael a little bit in that first fight, thinking that he possibly could steal a decision and get the job done. But this time I think Anderson is motivated. The hype, what we've heard from Anderson Silva and Chael this last week or so, or even before that, I think a lot of that stuff, the animosity and the stuff going on between them is real. Anderson's pissed, man. And I know that a lot of people are going to kind of, this could go either way, what I'm about to say. Anderson Silva knows what to expect now. I mean, obviously in that first fight, Chael Sonnen, we knew if he was going to win it, he had to take Anderson down. So not a big surprise that was the key to victory. But he got to feel how dominant Chael was in that particular first fight. And I think Anderson Silva has been drilling off his back. He's been drilling the takedown defense. He's going to be a lot harder to take down and control. And if Sonnen does get him to the floor, I think that Silva's going to be a lot more active off his back and maybe look for the sub a little bit quicker. And obviously on the feet, if it stays up, the longer it stays up, the more Chael's in trouble. So I do think maybe the first time around it was, even though it wasn't a huge shocker that Chael was going to try to out-wrestle Silva, it was a surprise that he was that dominant. This time around, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a different fight, and I think Silva should stop him before 3. That's what my feeling is here. If it does go beyond 3, then obviously Chael has a really good shot of winning a decision. So the people that are going to bet this fight, I would bet Chael by decision or Anderson inside the distance. But I'm leaning towards Anderson Silva inside the distance this time, and you're seeing the line minus 275 right now. For Anderson as well. And we're getting a little bit of two-way action. I'm sure the line's going to end up dropping on Chael based on that last performance. I'm expecting at least on a spot or two to see some large action across the board come in on Chael Sonnen. So we might see the line drop back down.
Okay, good stuff. We broke this card down from top to bottom, man. I'm going to ask you this, though. I've lost a lot of money over the years on sports gambling. So I know there's no true lock. But give me a lock for this event. Who would it be and why?
Give you a lock for this event. Yeah, like you just said, honestly, there is no true locks. You can't really ever say that. So I'm never going to recommend anybody and say this is a lock or two. But I do like Anderson Silva inside the distance is going to be one of my favorite plays. Nothing huge, of course, because like I said, if Chael does manage to survive, I think he's going to steal the decision. But you will see some props out there, Anderson Silva inside the distance, and it's going to be a cheaper price. Right now, minus 275 is the straight line, but you're going to probably see a bargain price maybe for inside the distance. So I would hop on that price, and that's probably one of my better bets on this card. Would be, obviously a lot of people are going to question that because there's going to be strong support for Sonnen, but I do think that Anderson Silva inside the distance is worth a play.
Awesome stuff, man. Do you want to throw out your Twitter or any of your websites?
Yeah, make sure check me out on Twitter at FightOdds for all the latest updates when breaking odds come out. And also check us out at MMAOddsbreaker.com. It's a new website. We have an MMA odds cast, actually, with myself and Luca Fury, which is a very intelligent MMA handicapper himself. Has won a decent chunk of money the last year or so betting MMA, so definitely a good guy to have on the MMA Odds Cast with me. I also do a video series on MMAOddsbreaker.com with Miguel Andrade, too. He's a former matchmaker for the sport, matched a lot of fights, and we break 4 big odds each time on that show as well. So go to MMAOddsbreaker.com and check us out, the Odds Cast and the video series on that site as well.
Awesome, Nick. Thanks for giving us the time, and it's going to be awesome watching these fights.
Yeah, looking forward to 148. Whatever happens in the main event, undercard, it should be a great night of fights either way.
Awesome, man. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thanks.